Well, hello, my name's Stephen Cox. I'm the Head of Product Design at Precision Model Railroad. And today we're going to walk through the build of the depressed center module. It's a frame that is 36 inches long, 12 inches wide, and it has a depressed section that is 6 inches deep. This was filmed at a recent trade show we attended, and it's a good example of how you can build any of our frames, or any of our products for that matter, in a fairly simple setup. We just had a table here that's about 30 inches wide. We put down some brown paper and laid out the parts and glued them together. So follow along as we make this depressed center frame, and we hope you enjoy it. So the first thing we do is we lay out all of the parts so that we know that everything is present. And dry fitting is always very, very important. So here what I'm doing is just taking the first parts of the side girders and making sure that everything lines up. And now we're starting to glue things together. Now gluing is really all you have to do to put our kits together. And what we're seeing here is a really good example of where you place the glue in the area to be glued, and then use a Teflon brush to spread the glue out nice and evenly. You don't need terribly much glue. It's not a matter of more glue equals a stronger joint. What really counts is that you have glue all the way to the edges and spread it evenly on both parts. Now, once the parts have been glued together and brought together, we use painter's tape to hold everything in alignment. And you can see that I'm checking all of the features on the outside edge to make sure that they all line up. The outside girders are made of multiple pieces that overlap for a really strong structure. And here I am spreading out the glue to make sure that it's nice and even, goes all the way to the edges. Now the other part doesn't yet have glue on it. When I bring them together, a certain amount transfers from the first part. And this is a good way of making sure that glue is everywhere it needs to be. When you put too much glue on the first part, you can simply bring them together and then spread it out. Here I'm putting a little bit of glue into the finger joints, and then I'll wipe away the excess just to make sure that everything's clean on the outside. And ultimately that's going to be a very strong lap joint there. You'll get a little bit of squeeze out, and just wipe that away with a paper towel or your fingers. Now there you saw me put in a spline gusset. The spline gusset runs the full length of the main supporting girders, and it's a key part of the system for adding in joists where we need them in the frame. And we're continuing to add the parts of the main girder here, do a dry fit, make sure everything lines up, make sure I have the correct part, and just working our way along, adding a little more glue. I'll spread it out. There, it's been spread out. Join the two parts together. This one needs a little more glue than what came from the other part. And then I'll spread that out with the brush. Brush towards the outside of the part, and that makes sure that you have glue all the way up to the edges. You can see a little bit of squeeze out there on the edges. This is a very nice kit. It comes with all the parts that you need. They're all fully labeled. As I mentioned earlier, we're building this at a trade show at our booth. And I'm talking to people along the way. People have a lot of questions about how to put these together and what they can be used for. And it's a very, very relaxed build. It doesn't have any special measurements or any particular difficult parts. It's really just a matter of gluing the parts together and making sure everything fits where it's supposed to. With the depressed center module or depressed center frame, obviously we have the curved sections, and they should line up perfectly between the two parts. You can see we're almost done with the depressed section, and then we'll fill in the angled section and then what we call the porch, or the small flat area at each end of the module. And you can always check using the outside features, the little notches and so on, and the holes in the parts. You can always check to see that everything has in fact lined up the way it's supposed to. So you can see there, as I'm taping, I'm just verifying with my fingers to make sure that those features are in fact lined up. Certainly, for example, with the holes, if they're not lined up, then you'll find that the gusset tabs won't fit all the way through. Here we are going around the corner at the other end of the depressed section. A little more glue, brush it out. Now we're putting in the long gusset that goes along the depressed section. And all these parts are designed to be very, very strong once they're all glued together, once the laminations have been done. You can see we're continuing to use tape to make sure everything is aligned while it cures. And we just use regular yellow carpenter's glue. And there I'm brushing away some of the excess after putting that gusset in. And this is the last piece on one end of the long girder. It goes on the side of the frame. And I'm just taping that in place and making sure all of the features are lined up. And that's basically done. You can see you can pick it up and handle it, no problem at all. It's very stable and solid. And with that first girder completed, that's the front girder, we'll now repeat that process and we'll do the second girder. And this one will speed up a little bit. It's very much similar to what we just saw. I'm building this in a slightly different manner. I'm building it in a couple of pieces. Now I'm adding on the depressed section. You can see I've already got the other end, if you like, of the girder already made, and then I'll bring those two pieces together to form the entire back girder. Okay, so now we're starting to put in the spline gussets on the end of the back girder, putting a little glue on each of the tabs, spread it all out, and we'll be inserting that into the holes. We have a little bit of glue between the holes to make sure it's a nice solid bond. There we go. And now at this point, we've basically got two halves of the back girder that we've built, and we just need to put glue onto each of those parts, spread it out, and bring those parts together. A lot of interest in the depressed center. This is a difficult thing to do with dimensional lumber, but very easy to do with our kit. And overall, it takes about an hour to put the entire thing together. So very, very easy. Here we're putting in the last of the spline gussets. It's a long one that goes right along the entire length of the depressed section. And you can see we've put glue in between the holes as well as on the tabs. And then we'll just brush along to make sure that we get rid of any excess there. And that's the second girder completed. The back girder is done. Now we're looking at the end plates with the holes in them that connects modules together. And those are made up of 2 1/4-inch pieces. And they just need to be glued together in the same fashion. So we'll spread out our glue, make sure it's evenly spread with the Teflon brush. See, we're putting glue on both parts. Very, very simple construction. Anyone can do this. And with the glue spread, it's just a matter of sliding these parts together, lining up the features. The sliding past the point where they line up and then sliding it back, make sure that the glue is very evenly spread. And then the tape holds things together, holds the parts together while the glue dries, such that it's a nice, strong lamination. Okay, we repeat the process with the other end plate, glue, tape it, let it dry. And we'll do the same for the other joists. Glue, tape, and let it dry. Very, very easy. And next day, those parts will be ready to assemble into the frame. So overnight, those parts have been curing, starting out by removing the tape. Here we're starting to dry fit the end plates on. The end plates have a very strong joint called a box joint, and they also have a hole where the spline gusset passes through. This makes for a very strong joint. And we have that on each of the 4 corners of the frame. So we're starting here with one of the girders. We're going to add glue to the various parts that touch within the joint. And we'll spread that out. You see we've removed all of the green tape from yesterday. And we're going to put glue on both parts. We've already put glue on the girder as well, and we slide it in there, brush away the excess that squeezes out. And it'll naturally want to go into a fairly square orientation. Typically what we're going to do is put some tape around the corner to hold the parts together. I'm going to bring in the other one. Right now both girders are actually upside down, so the top of the frame is on the table. You can see that they all fit together nicely there. So now that we've done that dry fit test, we'll pull them apart and put glue on there. More glue doesn't equal a stronger joint, but a nice even layer of glue between all parts that are touching is really what you want to strive for. And that includes the spline gusset tab that goes through the hole on the end plate. I'll put glue on the end of the end plate on the tabs there, spread that around, which I've done now. Slide the 2 parts together. And now we're putting some tape on to hold them together while they dry. Now that's not enough to hold them square, but you'll see in a minute once we have the other end plate on, we'll make sure that the entire module is nice and square. So this helps a lot with moving the frame around while you're working on it. Here we've flipped it over, and now we're putting on the other end plate. Just wiping away some glue there with my fingers. But now that those end plates are in, we've basically created a rectangle. We've got the end plates and we've got the 2 long girders in. And all I'm doing here is measuring the distance from opposite corners. And what you want to do is make sure that that distance is the same. Now when I flip it over, it's possible I may have skewed the frame a little bit, so I just want to check that that's not the case, and I'll use the tape measure again to measure just opposite corners, and the measurement should be the same. With that done, we can now add the corner gussets. And the corner gussets are very easy to put in place. They have notches already prepared for you in the edge of the girders and the joists. And then we use a little bit of painter's tape to hold that in place, that gusset in place while the glue is drying. Now we're looking at the top surface. And again, we put a little bit of glue in the tab positions, spread that out. Then likewise, a little bit of glue on the tabs of the gusset. We're going to leave the right-hand gusset off temporarily. That will get put on at the end of the build. But it can make things a little bit easier to get the upper joist in place if you leave that top gusset off. Here we're putting in the mid gusset. Now, depending on the length of your depressed center frame, there may be one, there may be more than one joist in the middle of the depressed section. Typically they're every 12 inches, but again, depending on the length, there may be more than one. And they're all placed in position the same way. We have the slot in the end of the joist, which we're putting glue on right now. And then we have the spline gusset that runs the length. And this makes it very, very easy to add joists between the girders after the girders have already been glued in place. We simply bring the joist in, slot it onto the gussets, rotate it into position, and then we're going to use what we call lap T gussets to secure that joint, make it very, very strong and rigid. And all of our frames are designed this way to make sure that they don't twist, they don't skew, and it's much, much stronger than what you'll build with dimensional lumber. With our kits, you can put them in your layout, take them out, work on them, and bring them back, and they'll still be at 90 degrees. We put the gussets on top and bottom in many places to make a super strong joint, and you'll be able to feel that once the glue dries that this frame does not want to skew out of alignment. And that's really important, because if your bench work stays nice and stable, that means the track that you lay on it will also be nice and stable. But if your bench work is able to move, then unfortunately you may encounter problems with your track work, and that's something to avoid. Now you may find it a little tricky to get the joist in up on the end of the module, but it helps if the gussets are not all in. And then it's a very simple matter of just applying glue to the touching surfaces. It's going to be a very strong joint. The gusset itself provides a lot of strength, and it's not like you'll typically be adding a lot of weight to this point. Mainly we're making sure that the support joist stays in its correct position. Once the whole thing is assembled, you just want that upper joist there to be in the position that you put it and nice and stable. And we're just making sure that it's the same distance from the end plate. Okay, that's really the complete coverage of building our depressed center module. We did skip over a couple of minor things like adding a few of the extra joists in, but I think you can see it's a very, very straightforward build, very easy to do, and we hope that you enjoy your depressed center module, build a beautiful bridge scene or a canyon scene, and we would love to see pictures of it, so please send us pictures. But thanks so much, good luck, and if you have any questions at all, we can be reached at our website on info@precisionmodelrailroad.com. And if you're interested in browsing our range of depressed center modules, please come along to precisionmodelrailroad.com and go to the benchwork section.